Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to invite Dr. Boaventura de Sousa Santos to deliver the convocation address.
Chancellor Arnold Steinberg, Principal Adam Monroe Bloom, Mr. Stuart Cobbett, Chair of the Board of Governors, Professor Daniel Jutras, Dean of the Faculty of Law, members of the faculty. Chers étudiants, devant vous, je me souviens du temps en que, à votre âge, le français était ma seconde langue. Quand j'ai croisé les Pyrénées pour la première fois en 1963, en train pour Berlin-Ouest, où j'allais étudier la philosophie du droit à l'Université libre de Berlin, je ne pourrais jamais imaginer que le français deviendrait un jour ma troisième langue, après l'anglais et l'espagnol, à peine suivi par l'allemand. My linguistic journey tells you a lot about my scientific interests of the years. Portuguese, French, and German were the mother tongues of my training in law, legal science, jurisprudence, and philosophy of law. English was the mother tongue of my training in sociology, with a specific focus on the sociology of law. And all of them were joined by Spanish, where my epistemological, theoretical, and political concerns as a critical sociologist of law led me to become a compagnon de route of social movements in Latin America, struggling against social injustice, in defense of their ancestral territories, clean water, communal land and biodiversity, food sovereignty, wealth redistribution, and social and economic rights, all of them inspired by the utopia that another world is possible. I mention this to you for two reasons. The first one has to do with diversity. The world is not as globalized as it presents itself to the casual eye. Globalization conveys very often the false idea of homogeneity, as if the internet, and more generally, the information and communication technologies, had translated all the relevant existence of the world into one single language and had universalized its cultural premises. In fact, this is not so. Besides the fact that there are many different languages recognized as English, most people in the world do not speak English at all and run their lives according to non-Western cultural premises. Indeed, the understanding of the world by far exceeds the Western understanding of the world. If you happen to work as a lawyer or a business person in Latin America, Africa, or Asia, not to speak of Canada, you may be confronted with terms and concepts that, however legally binding and specifically mentioned in the Constitution, cannot be rendered into English, or for that matter, into any colonial language. For instance, the concepts of summa causa and Pachamama, which according to the Constitution of Ecuador of 2008, preside over all the public policies of the state. They are Quechua words, the main language of the indigenous peoples of the country, which only roughly can be translated as good living and Mother Earth, respectively. They convey non-Western cosmovisions and ways of life. Taking them into account, that is, acknowledging their existence and respecting their difference, even if we cannot understand them fully, may be a prudent exercise of learned ignorance, that supreme path of learning that the 15th century philosopher Nicholas of Cusa advised us to take. The awareness of the cultural and political diversity of the world has led me to develop concepts such as ecology of knowledges, intercultural translation, cosmopolitan reason, intercultural human rights, and legal pluralism. The second reason for my reference to my linguistic journey has to do with inequality. The world is diverse, but it is not equally diverse or diverse. We live in a world of extreme concentration of wealth, of very powerful corporations controlling state policies and international relations, of the overexploitation of natural resources, giving rise to justified concerns about the sustainability of the dominant development model. Such concerns will be voiced in the coming weeks in Rio de Janeiro during the People's Summit and the UN Conference on Sustainability, in short, the Rio +20. While doing research in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, you and me, we cannot ignore the cruel workings of power inequalities and their impact on the well-being and livelihoods of poor people. Just to give you an example, a few weeks ago, I witnessed the anxiety and the resilience of the women of Famatina, a small city in Argentina, fighting against a gigantic mining company, actually a Canadian mining company, whose project for open sky extraction of gold would irreversibly contaminate the scarce water upon which their livelihoods and health and those of their children so much depend. As a committed sociologist of law, I felt the responsibility to share their struggle while at the same time keeping the critical distance and using the appropriate methodologies that the social sciences offer us to conduct our analysis. In other words, the scientific mandate to be objective does not entail the ideological mandate to be neutral. On the contrary, the world in which your professional life is going to unfold will increasingly force on you the following question: which side are you on? Do not put it aside, and do not let yourselves be paralyzed by it. Just experience it as the vital call and the warning of your full humanity in a world in which the humanity of some seems only to be possible at the cost of condemning many to the condition of subhumanity. I come from a continent, Europe, whose social cohesion and peace are in danger. I arrive in Montreal at a time in which social peace is also under stress. The question I just ask you to keep in mind in the case of social conflicts comes back to me. Which side am I on? In both contexts, Europe and here, I will be both on the side of the Constitution, of social and economic rights, of right to free education, to freedom of assembly and protest, as long as this is done by peaceful means. And above all, I'm on the side, and I'm on the side very strongly, on the side of negotiation and social concertation, the precious social tools that seem to be collapsing in Europe. I very much hope that they won't collapse here or there. It all depends on us. Thank you.